Welcome back to another episode of the Bonded Banter. Connor is MIA on this, so I'm riding solo to a certain degree. But I'm joined by Liam Bauer, a mate of mine who has played high-level touch footy for both Queensland and Australia, and who is on a mission to help other retiring athletes navigate their life beyond the game. Liam himself has struggled with that exact thing in terms of his mental health issues and finding uncertainty in his life after sport or after touch footy. So welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So appreciate you being here. Can you just give us a little backstory of yourself before we get into the nitty-gritty of life beyond the game?
So I essentially play high-level touch footy, as we said. I've played for Queensland and most recently Australia 30s in England. It was very good that we won that one recently. And essentially I based a lot of my identity on being this touch player, being this person playing at this level.
Yep.
And I hit 2022 when I played my last Queensland Men's Open, and I kind of had this big, what am I now if this is it, if this is like I was going to miss the next cycle of the Aussie Open selections and stuff like that. So I was very much like, this is my peak. Like, what else am I now if I'm not this? You can kind of very much see over the other side of, it's like now it's the back end, and so you kind of have this bit of an identity crisis where I kind of have myself. Very much led to probably about a good 3 month almost bender, I would almost say.
So what's a cycle? Is that a season?
Every 4 year, the rep seasons go in every 4 year cycles, like for World Cups. We have Origin every 2 years or so, like that.
Is that right? Yeah.
We have Origin every 2 years and play Nationals every year, but World Cup cycles are every 4 years.
Okay.
And so can be in a new cycle, and obviously people can get brought in by how well they're playing, for example. And I kind of I wasn't in those talks after that kind of situation. So I kind of had known that probably that was the top level that I would play, and that there was another 2 years until the next one. And I already knew how good some of the young kids that were coming in through the 20s. Like, there's some guns now who are like walking into the next Queensland team for this year next year that we'll have, that I knew they were coming through. So I kind of knew my spot was very much out, which I was super grateful for how I was, and I got to play Queensland Men's Open because that was a goal of mine, just to be able to play Queensland Men's Open, and I was lucky enough to get two of them.
Do you think, was that a conversation that selectors or whoever it might have been had conversations with you, or was that a story you had told yourself?
Absolute story I've told myself.
Yeah, so it wasn't the truth.
No. Yeah.
But you had conjured that up in your head.
Yeah, very much my own story that I had put up, not the actual story of what was going on. Because pretty much I played that Origin, and even regardless of kind of having that identity crisis in the next 3 months, it was the best footy I reckon I'd ever played. Mm-hmm. The next 3 months at Clubland, I felt like I was playing the best footy I'd ever played. We went to a state cup. We just play a Queensland state cup where you play all the club teams from Queensland, and I went and did that. And I did my knee. That's when I did my knee. Mm-hmm. And I had both the two coaches there who are the Australian men's and Australian men's assistant coach, asking me really quite efficiently, like, hey mate, how bad is your knee? Like, how bad? Can you give us an update? And what I didn't actually realize, and they told me after I got surgery and kind of it was a lot worse than what I thought initially. As soon as I knew I didn't do my ACL, I was like, sweet, this is only like a 6 week thing, because if it's like an MPFL or something like that, or MCL, then I know those things are about 6 weeks or so like that, and I only am gonna I should be back. Mm-hmm. But it was unfortunately a little bit too much for that. I was very much cartilage damage. I'm still dealing with it now. That's 2 years on. So cartilage is not very fun to try and come back on. But what I didn't know is they're actually going to not ask me to be into the squad, but I was going to get to come to Australian men's camp, which, like, for me, that's a huge, big deal for me from where I thought I could have potentially been.
Yep.
And that might not seem, for other people in the touch circles, that like might not seem too big, to, like, because you're not even in the squad. But even getting to come to camp is a pretty big deal. It was a pretty big deal for me individually.
Yep.
So, and just kind of being able to be in and around that system would have been just phenomenal. Like, I would have gone, as long as I got, like, for example, a shot. I might not even have a shot, but just being able to be there. But that was kind of something that drove me, that, like, you're pretty close to try and get back there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that very much led on to my ripping into rehab. Like, I kind of just, as everyone who's done it, kind of done an injury, like, as soon as you get it, you get the prognosis and whatever it is, or you get surgery, and it's like, cool, what is the next steps? Like, how long am I out for? What can I do to make it better? So I kind of very much went big personal development journey, kind of started there. Really reading into personal development books. 4:30 cold tubs is when the ice bath kind of phase hit.
Fad.
Yeah.
Which has taken the world by storm.
Yeah,
now.
Absolutely. I was up at 4:30 every morning doing a cold plunge, like, every day, just to start doing something hard every morning. So I kind of started my journey for the next bit.
But you did that because of your injury. What relevance can you bring to your personal development for injury rehab? Was it to get you in a different mindset?
I kind of just approached it very much, quite analytical. I'm quite analytical when it comes to footy. Like, I try and, like, I didn't get to where I was at in footy by skill, by being physically better or faster or anything else like that. I started doing things just to be, like, the fittest person, try to be the fittest person on the park. I wasn't super, super agile, so I wasn't able to make all these decisions really quickly in short time in defense. But I started trying to be able to read the game a lot better. I started trying to analyze different players and, like, what their tendencies are, so I could try and preempt what I was able to do. And so that was very much like where I kind of did. It was very much a lot of my footy was built on, like, effort areas and kind of just, like, is a bit of built of work.
I don't know a lot about touch footy. I've played it socially and it was good fun. But is it still quite a team structured defensive line and system?
Yep.
Like, it's still quite systematic.
Yep, very much so.
In terms of your team.
There's no individual stuff that you can kind of go on. At the top level, we do get a bit of points where if you're really agile, you try and play a bit more man on sometimes, you try and play a bit straighter in defense and try and be able to run people down or
squeeze them up.
Well, take away, if there's some guys in the game who are just awesome, phenomenal passers, and if they get in the right platform, they're going to execute. And the way to take some of that out of their game is not kind of, the defense won't shut down. You kind of can and give them different options to pick. If the defense all holds out and the guy who makes the touch pulls really straight and kind of mans him on, it kind of takes away passing options. And so being agile helps with that.
Yeah.
And so that's something that very much we implement kind of at the top level, but it's still very, like, defend as a team. You defend a policy. Anyone who doesn't defend a policy kind of you get found out very quickly, just because
100%.
The better players see people and know how people defend and their tendencies and run plays and get to beat that person because they know how they're probably going to defend a certain way.
Yeah. So, but you say you weren't the biggest, best, fastest, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What sort of mindset, or what did you do to overcome that? Like, what was it? Your training blocks? Obviously, you need to be quite strong mentally to understand that first and foremost. But then, what are you doing? Like, what's Liam doing to overcome those hurdles, so to speak, so you can be at the top level?
Yeah. So I kind of got really quite, I'd say, like, early 20s when I wanted to really start trying to crack some of these teams. It's that they're like, especially the top teams, like Queensland Men's Open, and as soon as you get into Australia Men's Open, there's roles in the team. You just don't put the don't put the top seven best attackers in Queensland on a team and just see how everything goes. Like, that's not how the top level works. You only really need 3 or 4 gun attackers in a team. Everyone else can obviously be like awesome, but everyone needs to play their role. As you probably know with AFL, you need to have role players, and those role players need to go out there and know how to set up and do the work for some of these guns that we have of the sport. And the guys I've gotten to play with are unreal, but they get to do what they do, and they appreciate, and they know when someone's getting all these defensive stops and then getting the ball down the park, or flying in off the box and getting a good dump for them to go and do their work. That's what I kind of was like, all right, if I'm going to go and give myself a crack at this next level, that's the type of stuff I want to build my game around. And that stuff's not physical. That stuff's not through ability. You just need to douse your ego a bit and go and be this fittest person on the field and develop these skills, and to be able to dump the ball really well, go and do the hard work, see what things that really need to happen that coach is going to pick you for as a role player, and then just go and do it. Like, that's all. You don't need to be doing all the flashy stuff to be at the top level. Like, they only need 3 or 4 guys to go and be the man.
Yep. So you identified that personally, and then you got to work.
Yep, very much so. Just like, and then it was just train your ass off. Started looking at
the specific roles that you saw.
Yep. And then I had a good chat with a couple of guys who were on the, like, not at the back end, but like guys who used to be in the, like, we have like a golden jubilee team,
right?
And that's like the best 12 or 14 players that's ever played the game. And so I kind of knew one of them, and he was just purely his like whole thing as well, when he was like essentially the best in the world at this one time, was fitness. He was the fittest bloke on the field, and just like, and so I started doing training blocks with him and getting some ideas from him, and hit this like 20, 21, 22, like couple of years where I was just training my ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just that kind of kicked away, and that's what kind of built very much of you. Had to kind of very much tell me something that I was built around, or something of value I had. It was hard work and resilience, and being able to kind of just go out and do the hard work no matter what happens. And then, that's very much what I built a lot of myself and my game around, I think.
Okay. Connor and I, one of the big things that we have spoken about and will continue to speak about is, and we've asked others as well, do you think you are born with that level of work ethic, with that shit in you to get up and dust yourself off and keep, roll up your sleeves and have a crack? Or is it developed? Are you born like that and then you continue to foster that? Or if you don't have it, if you're not born with it, can you develop it?
That's a good question.
I'll give you our take on it, and then I think that you have to be born with it. And we think that there's got to be something that sits in you, that there's that shit sits with you to then go, nah, I'm not copping that. This is how I'm going to do it, whether it's a setback or...
Yep.
So that level of resilience to keep having a crack, I believe that it is, that fire sits in you.
It's interesting because you could have, I'm trying to think about like how I do my own examples. But as a kid, I definitely went through periods where I know I'd push myself as like even like a junior, like when I used to swim even probably when I was 5 or like, not year 10 or so, going, not year 10, like going 50 meters underwater and like passed out because I wanted to get a chocolate, for example, like that. That's just stuff like you just keep pushing.
So you don't
give up. Like, it's like, I'm trying to think like I innately had that type of, whether that's like in a sense to try and go and to achieve something though, and then whether that's trying to achieve for yourself or achieve to someone else, someone like family members, parents, anything else like that, like trying to make them proud. That could also be something that you drive achievement and pushing through for.
Yeah.
But I get that can happen, that you can just be, it can just be some people who just deep inside, they just have this. But then, like, do you really reckon that David Goggins had that really just deep inside him when he was this fat, overweight, 300-pound cockroach guy? That's my question.
I reckon he probably did, because he's transformed his life. That has been a journey which he's developed and now has become really successful at. I think it probably sat there. It was just suppressed.
Yeah, true.
I think that I don't think it's as black and white as either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
However, if you want to talk about the nitty gritty, biting down on your mouth guard and putting your head over the footy when no one else will, you can't teach that.
You can't. Yeah, you're right. You probably can't.
If there's a footy on the ground and there's two blokes running at it, and you know that you are going to risk serious injury or be hurt, do you pull on the handbrake? Or do you keep going? And that's where I think you either have it or you don't. You can't coach or train somebody to do that. Yeah. That would be the difference. Yeah. The difference of that. So, you talk about a competitive edge when you're a kid, it's in you. I think it's very much in you. So you're going to touch on before, and we'll discuss it now because we've spoken about it before, about your thought process, understanding that these younger kids are coming through who are quicker, they're more agile. You feel like your career's teetering off, and then you tell yourself a story that they're pushing right up behind you and your spot's in jeopardy, your career's ending. We've spoken that you felt that, and then you tell yourself that story to say, okay, well, this is me, I'm done. And then you start checking out mentally. And then can you tell us what you felt and what you faced for that couple of month period that you had or experienced, which has probably given you the enlightenment to do what you're doing now to help other retiring athletes? So your experience around that? Yeah,
very much. You go through this big, who am I now? Like you kind of very much go through this period, and I don't know if everyone has to do this because some people just can innately go and swap over to that, but I find there's quite a lot of elite athletes, even like quite above me, professional athletes who hit that period and then they kind of start kind of asking themselves some questions. Very much like this, you got to have some type of self-introspection, I feel, to kind of move through that. I had that because that's how I feel I approached. I think I approached footy like that, but I didn't I didn't have, in terms of I was very good at analysing my own faults in a game or physical faults, or I was very quick to kind of pick those situations out for myself, but I didn't really turn a lot inwards, if that makes sense. And so I think when I finished and kind of got over that period, the next couple of months I went on this pretty big self-sabotaging, I kind of very much went on this self-sabotaging couple of months, kind of trying to hide, trying to avoid this big kind of hole I almost feel that like I had, because you kind of it's all you kind of know, and it's all you kind of feel that you've ever been, and that's I wanted something else to fix that. I wanted something else to kind of help out in that situation, help out and start covering up that hole a little bit. Yeah,
to give you that rush. So your identity was purely based around Liam, the footballer. Yep. But then you feel like you're not going to have that anymore.
Yep. And so
you sabotage your life and yourself.
Yep.
To try and replace it with something that feels good.
Yep. Cheap hits, things that you might have done previously, and anything else that to try and get you, like partying, women, drugs, all that type of stuff. All that type of stuff for anybody else, I imagine, is on the table. Alcohol, like all of that stuff comes up because it's just cheap hits, and it's
To hit the highs.
you hit your highs that you would get from a recognition from a peer group, winning something.
Yep.
Coaches like
Accolades.
seeing highlights of you, like being able to watch highlights of yourself, like all of that stuff that's all you're trying to mask, or you're trying to cover up all these this hole you're kind of feeling after it. It's this big identity loss. And so that's pretty much what you kind of go through, for example, I felt. And I went through that period, and then very much the injury happened. And if anything, the injury kind of kickstarted me on a little journey, I would say.
Like a comeback.
Like I had like the thought of, you're pretty close to getting an invite to this camp, just to go and train. Now's the time. You've got like, go and try and get back onto the field. And that's where I went on this pretty big personal development journey, reading books, ice baths. I went sober for 8 months. I essentially stopped drinking in March or February that year. And I said to myself, I'm not going to drink again until I get back playing on the field. And I don't think I had another drink until the end of October that year.
But what gave you, what was the catalyst for you to then turn to the bottle, so to speak? Like, was it just that sense of emptiness?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
And questioning yourself on what is next.
Well,
like, you'd given up?
No,
I don't think.
But I don't know if I'd given up like what that hope? I reckon I had not known what was next for me. I'd never really thought about life after footy. I didn't think that I was like, it kind of came rushing at me really quickly, and I didn't expect to kind of have those questions.
Yep.
And when you kind of get asked those questions and start asking those stuff really early, you don't really want to answer those questions. You kind of go hiding from those actual questions of, you don't really have much underneath here. Like, there's not much substance of a person. And then there's all these other things that you might have hidden away underneath you.
Yeah.
That you don't want to go and try and open some of those doors up. So it's just easy to cover it up with other things. And that's where you just start finding other things to cover up this ability to not answer some of those questions, because they pop in your head, and then you're like, oh, I don't like that, and you kind of close that door and let's put something else over the top of it.
Amen to that. Exactly. I can resonate with that hardcore, because that perceived front that you have as this masculine man that needs to portray this sense of self, I promise you, behind that is a little boy,
mate.
That is a scared little boy that hasn't got any of his shit together. And the chinks in the armor, those cracks appear really quickly once you ask yourself one question, and generally it's done alone. Like, I've spent a lot of alone time self-evaluating what those things are and why they're there. And I'll keep relaying it and relating it back to this putting on this front. And you're hiding behind bullshit. Like, it is absolute bullshit. And we've spoken about that sort of stuff plenty of times before on Zooms and things, but it's not real.
No.
Like, you are the most, from my point of view, and I'm not sure if you'd feel the same, that you're the most inauthentic version of yourself. It's gross, like it is. Yep. And yeah, to people that may sit in that space, get to work and really, delve deep into who you are and what you're about, and find that, because it's fucking sad. Like, it's really sad. Absolutely. That you have to feel this, feel that you need to be something or somebody else to appease
for someone else.
People for someone else.
Not yourself.
And that can generally be a collective group of the sporting club, or that you're seen as a leader. So therefore you've got to be this certain type of person, which you are on the field. But off the field, there can be a lot of empty space.
Because only you know what you're thinking. Only you know the things that you don't know. Don't know. Only you know the things that you miss, the things that you say to yourself.
Voids.
Yeah, the things that you say to yourself in quiet, the thoughts that pop in. No one else sometimes hears those thoughts. No one else hears those thoughts, but you know. You know the things that you've done too, the things that you've said, the things that you've thought about other people, all those other situations, your faults, everything. Like, you're your biggest critic here. And when there's not something else, it just opens up this big raw wound almost. And then you just want to put stuff on it. And the things that you put on it are just the quick fixes. You don't give it time to heal. That's a good analogy. But like, when it's opened up like that, you just look for like the ointment, the really quick ointment to put on, just to make this sunburn feel better.
You ain't pouring salt on it.
Yeah, you're not pouring salt on it. Even not putting, like, you're not going for a surf and putting lime on that. You're going and trying to drink some alcohol to make sure I don't feel this wound at the moment. Like, that's where you kind of go.
And you've said it that you pretty much went on a 3-month bender, like to keep that at bay.
Yeah, I reckon. I wouldn't say every weekend, but most weekends I was definitely like out. I was living by myself at that time. Yeah, it was very. Yeah, I wasn't a very nice person, I don't think, at that stage. It's not a very person I was proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to this point where you look at you like. That's the hardest thing. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I don't really like myself. Like, I don't like the things that I've done, the things that I've said in, like...
That's huge.
Yeah, huge, isn't it?
I'd encourage anyone to...
Oh, that's like...
the mirror.
Oh, mate, the mirror thing is... Oh, like, yeah. Like, I didn't really like myself. And then when you put yourself into that question where it's like, I don't like myself. It's like,
how long did you last the first time? When you looked at yourself in the mirror?
Not very long. No, you don't like that stuff. No, not like...
I reckon I would have been about 45 seconds.
Yeah, you don't really like... You ask yourself a question or so.
And then I had to turn away.
Yeah.
Until, like, and I think I'd make it something that I do regularly now. Whether I go to bed or when I wake up, and if after it's meditating or whatever.
I think I'm a bit...
very powerful.
I'm so much more conscious of it now.
Yeah.
I'm so much more conscious of the things that I don't do or the things that I slip up on. And it's like, is the better version of me? Is the version that I'm striving now to achieve? Like, that guy, is that what that person would do? And I know when I've slipped up, and I quite get into myself about it sometimes. Sometimes you got to give yourself grace because you're going to stuff up. But I think trying to think about that self and that's one of the big key things I think in identity is start creating the identity of like, what is that better, that's that best version of yourself. Like, what's that perfect, like, what's the best father that you think you could be for Connor? Like, what is the best relation, like, what are the best partner you could be, the best son you could be, and then what does he do? Like, what is that person all in one? And it's like, when you ask yourself in that situation, is when you get to those points of vulnerability, is that really what this guy would do right now? And then, like, when you compare yourself to that, and you don't live up to that, that's the big identity thing I'm kind of in at the moment, because I'm at the point where I know what I'm striving towards. I know what that person is. I know what type of values he has. I know what he gets to work in. And if I don't, I kind of get into myself a little bit at the moment. And I've still got to give myself a bit of grace because I'm not perfect, and neither is that guy. But it's very much something I'm working through at the moment.
Is that what do you think moving forward for retiring athletes or back ends of their career, that's where they need to start? Do you think finding out what their values are, like what their core values are and who they are and what they want to be? Because I will hand on heart say I had no idea about that until absolutely. It comes knocking on your door pretty quick. And if you're not, I think what you're trying to achieve, and Connor and I have spoken about it, is to have a bit more self-awareness and preparation, as you said before, prior to that day
Absolutely.
when you get the knock on the door.
When you get the knock on the door, you just ask yourself, you go, oh, I'm starting to slow down a little bit here.
Does that, do you get that level of work? I know physically you're training as a young kid and you're doing all those things so you can be better physically. Do you think that work needs to happen in athletes or people in general at a younger age?
Absolutely. I don't think it's taught. I don't think it's taught from everybody else. I don't think...
School. Do you think Connor and I have spoken about getting some sort of subject or whatever it might be into school that allows kids to understand a bit more about personal development, resilience, how they actually tick, what makes them tick, because everyone's different.
Well, do you watch much of, have you read The Resilience Project?
Oh, little bits.
Yeah, so Hugh Van Cuylenberg
Yeah.
does stuff with the Resilience Project, and they teach things in schools, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
To start going through, just start the process of it. And they have a podcast called The Imperfects, and something I very much listen to all the time. There's some absolute unreal episodes on that.
Yeah, sure.
And they have a psychologist that comes on, and her name is Emily Musgrove. She's actually started a school in Melbourne, like a primary school, and it's like the curriculum is built on things.
Yeah.
It's built on
Specifics.
Emotion, being able to talk about your emotions, like being able to, there's subjects on value. They're starting to bring things in at a very junior level. And I think that needs to be started earlier for sure. Because if you start it then, they could have, when you have kids growing up, they get to this point when they get to school and they see their parents when they wake up of a morning, and then they see their parents in the afternoon at school until they go to bed. If the next person that they see the most out of that 12-year period is their teacher and what they're learning in school. So if anything, their teacher is teaching them more about life than what their parents are.
Totally, hands down.
So why not, and I think that's one of the big reasons, is why not start something then? Why not have these things taught earlier on? Because it's just going to foster more emotionally aware people, both men and women, kids growing up, being able to deal with their emotions a bit more. Like that's the whole reason I think she's doing it. And I think it's fantastic work that she's doing.
It's just being able to have open tabled conversations. And honest conversations with others, but like we're talking about, having them with yourself.
Very much so.
And being real enough to do that. If we spoke about that as children and building through, do you think that from your experiences and then what you might understand, do you think that sporting clubs do enough for athletes tailing to the back ends of their career and once they're done? Do you think during their career there is enough support, understanding? That I'm sure there's a lot more now at sporting clubs than there ever was before. However, I'm not sure. I think there could be more done for them to prepare them for
very
life
much so.
after
the
game.
Yeah, very much so. I without being able to comment, because I don't know the inner workings of like the RLPA and like the AFL side and the other different Firebirds, all those types. I don't know the inner workings, and touch isn't a professional sport, so we don't really have anything really in there for touch. It's really like your coach and your mates, and that's it really. So there's not anything, for example, for us, but it's a very volunteer based sport. But I think there definitely could be. I don't think there could not be more done about that. But I think it's more, and we spoke about this before, but it's not being able to craft your identity on whether you had a good game or not, whether your team won the premiership or not, whether your team won, like whether everything went right, for example, because then you're based on outcomes. As in you as a person are based on outcomes. Absolutely, you want to win. Everyone wants to win, and it's about winning premierships. But if you're going through those years and you're starting to learn more about yourself, and everything's not based on your identity of winning, example, or you playing well. It's based on the actual traits and values that you hold in yourself. Because then yes, it sucks to lose. I hate losing. Like, one of the sorest losers ever. Not sorest, but like, I hate losing so much.
Yeah.
But still going out and playing the game how I feel I needed to play the game. Even if we lose now, I feel like as long as I have played the game with the way I want to play it now, a game, like, I'm okay with the outcome. I don't like it. I lost 2 grand finals in the space of, I lost a grand final and a semi-final in the space of a week a month ago. It was terrible. It sucked. I hate losing. But you move on from outcomes, and if you're in a team that played the way that you want to play with people who share the same type of values that you have, and they have that's the type of team I want to stay around with and want to keep playing with. And then and I think teams, and I'm sure that's what some of the NRL, like the different clubs, I know I always go to NRL, but some of the clubs always like do, but you need to be able to detach yourself from as well winning, so that when you go home, whether you had a shit game or not, you're still a present father. You still got to turn up, because that's like, you're still a present father, a present partner, son, everything. Like, that's who you're attached to that. You're not attached to yourself as the footy player.
Yeah. Do you think I would feel that a lot of that would then derive from the pressures of being highly paid, and
Absolutely.
you are in the spotlight?
Yep.
So then you are public property, I guess, if you're an elite player.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
So then you're highly scrutinised.
Yep.
For anything you do, for walking one way or whatever you might do. Everybody seems to be out to get you like that. Maybe the tall poppy style side of things.
It's an Australian thing. It's an Australian thing. You don't see that
very much. So everybody's, some people are quick to build you up, but if one person's building you up, there's 1,000 there to pull you
ready
down,
to go, yeah,
and rip you down. So yeah, I just wonder if, and it's very, it's really applicable to try and get some information and grounding into kids before it. But Liam 10 or 15 years ago would not have had the awareness, the emotional awareness that you do now after losing a Sammy and a granny in a week.
Liam 2 years ago wouldn't have had that.
Okay, yeah, right.
Liam 2 years ago, I hate it. Like, yeah.
And what's the difference?
What's happened in the last period of time?
Why have you been able to shift emotionally?
I think I've gone through this period of just trying to understand who I am, and work on that, and work on who I feel I am, and start asking myself those questions, so that if I know that who I am deep inside, that I can kind of disassociate from those situations, if that if that makes sense.
How can you disconnect from the pain of loss and still be aware enough to be happy with you? Like, how it seems to most people that would be all encompassing, like to really be able to disconnect from the anger and the fear, or not so much the fear, but the anger and the frustration of losing and loss. Not just in footy, like it can be in a relationship. Like, you feel that anger and you feel frustration and you feel guilt and resentment around, like, there are a lot of the hard facts of the feelings that you would have. But to have awareness around being, pretty spot on with discerning your emotion, that's like That's got to be something that everyone should strive for.
Absolutely. That's like a superpower. Like,
'Cause it's
that's like
so
that's like a
personal.
meta skill. If you can do that, like there's no way. Like people, you gotta. And we heard this recently. It's that difference between reaction and response, and that gap between the two of them.
Closing the gap. Or
Yeah,
opening, opening
opening the gap,
widening the
and
space.
yeah, and the analogy I thought of, and I didn't even speak to you last night about
Yeah.
it because it's like a Yeti drink bottle. There's
Mm.
water inside, and then there's a gap between the heat that comes outside, and that gap there is the
space.
space between stimulus and like the heat
Response,
and the water,
yeah.
but like stimulus and response.
Yeah.
And the wider you can get that, the more you can kind of sit and have time to analyze what actually happened, and does that actually make me a bad person? Well, no, because I have evidence that shows me that I'm not to myself. Like exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Hormozy speaks about that all the time, obviously in a different context, but that's something I'm kind of been leaning on too, and that's something one of the big things about us with our like having our daily habits that we have to try and do. That it's like you have evidence to why you are like, it's like if they were to say you are overweight at the moment. Well, no, I have evidence to show the contrary, or like that you're like not rich or anything. It's no, there's evidence here, but it's being able to find evidence.
Yeah.
And regardless of like being able to discern, it's like you feel that anger, but it's like, or that resentment or hate or anything, but it's understanding that that is an emotion that's coming up. You have to be able to label that emotion, and then being able to go, this is a feeling that's just coming up. Is this true? Is this feeling true?
Mm-hmm.
No. Is it like, or is it just a feeling that's coming up due to whatever's happening? Okay, that's all right. Now let's try and move on. That's creating that space and being able to label what you're feeling. And mate, there's no way me even more than 12 months ago, 18 months ago, I still do that stuff now. I'm still reactive, but I'm a bit more aware of that situation.
Which is a real journey, isn't it? But I know myself off the back of that, I would sit there with reflection, and then that would turn into regret because I would then overplay or replay situations that led to that poor result. So I'd become quite analytical about periods of a game that then led to the result not going the way. So then I would potentially take a lot of personal ownership on that, which is not the fucking truth.
No.
Like that, like you're one of a team.
Yep.
But I felt, and it always buried me, that I'd take it quite personally at areas that I may have, not been 100% in a period of time, which then could have led to, a wicket, a goal being scored, whatever it might be. And then that's where I would just sit in that wallow of pity for a long time, not being able to understand, firstly, why. But this sort of stuff that we've been doing is, as you spoke about, like just widening the gap and being able to quickly analyse and articulate what is actually the truth.
Yeah, and it's being able to discern that human errors, we play sports, human errors happen.
Mm.
You're not always going to, the reason you kick the ball on the outside of your foot and kicking it through the goal has there's a multitude of factors for that happening. Fatigue, crowd, dew on the field, and everything. There's so many factors sometimes out of your control that you can't control sometimes. And you can't just expect that you are going to be perfect every single time that you can do it. Like obviously it sucks that sometimes that happens, and if you're the person that happens to, that's terrible, and you're going to replay that kind of situation for a little bit, but it still doesn't make you a bad person. It still doesn't make, as long as you know in yourself that you gave 100%. If you gave 100% and stuff still went wrong, there's not much else you can do. It doesn't, just because the outcome didn't go your way this time doesn't mean that. I've seen guys in sport who have won 3 championship titles in a row, whatever it is, but then also have been the sole reason games have been lost. Like guys who've thrown intercepts on the last play and it's like lost the team the game. Quite recently, I've seen like other teams where like guys have made mistakes that kind of very much led to that. But I know, and I've spoken about this with other people, but it's like they're still going to go on and still going to. That experience there is going to lead them to go and be something better. Like they're going to go and win a game for Queensland Men's Open soon, or win a game for Australian Men's Open soon because of the awareness and like mistakes happen, and you can't control something sometimes. Some things are out of your control.
And do you believe in redemption? And you will get your opportunity at some point. Do you believe in that? Absolutely.
And like those things should fire you to try.
So there you go. So we were talking earlier about you've either got that shit in you.
Yeah.
So to believe in redemption, you have to have some fire there.
Yep.
To be willing to go and, rewrite that wrong.
Yep. I didn't make my first Queensland team till I was 26.
Yep.
And I didn't make my first Queensland Men's Open team until I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long time trying to make those like that team. Some guys go there like whole life, and some guys go straight from schoolboys straight into 20s, straight into mixed or men's open. Like that's just the period they go through, and that's it. But I got knocked back so many times so early on that like I didn't make my under 15 Met North team, for example, like which is just like a regional touch team.
Cool stuff.
And I was 15, and then I got to play like at a national like men's open level at 17. And while the same year I missed out on the Queensland schoolboys, and then I like missed out on multiple other teams when I was like 21, which opened up other avenues for me to go and play at the same level. But it's like almost every time I got knocked back, it kind of fueled me to go, righto, watch this. I'm just going to go train my ass off for another 3 months and come back.
So you got it in you.
Yeah, it's like you sit there and just like, all right, I can't change this. This team's been named. This coach has made this decision. What can I control? And that's like the biggest thing I've gone back to. It's like, what can you control? And you can control, have you gone and trained as hard as you can? Well, no, because I went out in the piss multiple times out with all my mates. So it's clearly not that important to me. And you go and complain or get sulky. It's like, you can't be sulky when if it's so important to you, so it's obviously not more important than going and getting on the piss with your mates.
Yeah.
If it was more important to you, then you wouldn't do that because you'd put everything into going that. And if it still didn't go your way, then you just keep going. Like if it's that important to you, just one setback. Go and name me someone who hasn't had multiple setbacks.
Totally.
100%. You need setbacks in life. Like nobody got anything worthwhile hasn't had multiple setbacks. And we spoke about this before with that like that region beta paradox that Chris Williamson spoke about. Yeah. So sometimes you need something crap to happen to give you the activation energy to go and leave the job, to break up with the girl, to move out or whatever it is, so that you go and move on to that next stage, that next level of your life. You go and start the business. You go and start working on yourself. You might need that. Otherwise, you get caught in this level of comfortability. So you kind of like almost need losses to go and level up, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense if you're that way, like if you're that minded. You would find, I think, a lot of people, and I'd be very general, that are happy with safe. They're happy with just the predictability of their job, the predictability of their life. How many times I know I've seen it with friends that doesn't serve you for all that long. Otherwise you become a really angry, depressed motherfucker.
Yep, when you don't have something to go and strive for. There's nothing like men need something to go and do. And if you're not, you're just going to be you're not really a man, are you? They're not really kind of going. You're not kind of moving forward, are you? You're kind of stagnant. I think
100%. But you just sit in that level of safety, and then we talk about the knock on the door. Well, hello.
Knock on the door doesn't even have to be for sports.
No, it's coming. I can promise you, you're going to get a knock on the door. Whether it's relationship, the way you've been as a parent from your child, or you can't run from it.
No, it's everything. It's like everything. You got to constantly kind of be doing what is like the little thing that you haven't been doing that then leads to like a big thing happening. Because if you don't do a heap of like little things, eventually a big thing will happen. And I could have dealt with this ages ago. For example, if I had have stayed going to the gym, and I kept going, and I missed the gym for a week, turns into 2 weeks, turns into going out eating heaps, and then next thing you know, you look in the mirror and you've got 10 kilos on you, and you go, where the hell did that come up with? Maybe if you just 3 months ago just kept going to the gym or didn't put it over something else.
Well and truly. What keeps you motivated
now?
Yes.
I went through this period of not knowing what I wanted. I didn't have it. Everything was based on the next touch comp. So which is like every 3 months to 6 months. Like I was living in like 3 and 6 month cycles because my highest value was sport and physical, and I would train and I would want to make touch, and then there was this huge gap to family, work, relationships with other people, myself. Like none of that was really. Family was maybe probably the next closest, but that's about it. Like it was really confronting. I did this DeMartini values assessment when we came into here, and when you go and do it, did you do it?
No, I've done it before though in another platform.
Mate, it was scary. It's like, oh, cool. So you had sport, and that's it. And then you wonder why when you stop sport, or you go on the other end of that sport, you don't really have much to kind of go back on. There's not much that's much else that's going to lift you up in those times when you're not going to. Because imagine if your
vibration is so high.
Yeah, but like if you have a bad game, but you've put in the work at home with your missus and kids and stuff like that, you're going to go home and your kids are still going to give you a good hug, and it's going to make things you have a bad day at work, you go home, little man gives you a hug. Oh, I'm sure that kind of like the world melts away a little bit. Totally. Then it's like no problem at work is more than this kid's hug right now.
No, definitely not.
And like that's me not even being a father, and I already kind of know that situation. But to your question of like what motivates me now is being around people who have kind of broadened my what's capable, what actually can someone achieve. Start trying to figure out what I am really into, and that's one of the good things that I've kind of done the work on. Start picking things that I'm innately good at, and that I want to, and I'm quite active in, and then channeling that into a new passion, because that's where you take the things that you are good at sport with. Like I was analytical and I was hardworking and I was resilient, and then you go and find a new passion, and then you kind of start being around other people who start leveling up in those different areas. Yep. You start seeing what's possible, and you start seeing seeing other people start achieving things, and they're like, you start opening your mind a little bit. Yeah. Because otherwise you just closed off all on this one thing. Like my mind was closed off to just achieving in sport. It wasn't about how my relationship is with my father, my parents, my sister. It wasn't about what type of person I wanted to be. It wasn't what type of relationship I want to have with my future, like the next partner I have. Like I want to work on all of those things. I want to keep leveling up in those areas. Like you ask me what motivates me, it's like start becoming someone who's a bit more multifaceted. Start kind of that's like growth, because I think you feel stuck and people feel these like lost or stuck because they stopped wanting to grow. They get comfortable, and you say like you get in this safety zone and you kind of get stuck in this level. and you don't have, and when everything kind of stays stagnant, you eventually it comes to a knock on the door comes, and
Totally.
you don't know. It's like you're like, I don't know. I haven't thought about what's next, or I haven't thought about what I'm going to try and like, instead of the next 3, 6, 12-month cycle, what else? Like, what's in the future? Like, I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. No, definitely. I would have been 100% guilty of that, just remaining just level and constant. But then it's not like it's serving a purpose. Of course it is, like to be a provider or whatever it might be, but it doesn't serve you holistically.
No, being someone of like who wants to grow, like that's like the, how do I want to put it, like the object of yourself. Like start being obsessed with yourself rather than other people. Like if you start being obsessed with yourself, not being obsessive about like narcissistic, for example, like that. Start being self-analytical of yourself.
Of the version of you.
Oh yeah, start worrying about being the best version. Not being the best version of you. It's kind of a bit cliche, but start worrying about you and you leveling up and you growing. And when you look at it from different areas, family, relationship, fitness, business, which we start doing a lot more now.
Yeah, for sure.
That version of you in 15 years, that better version of you, that's the guy you want to start trying to be. And he's crushing it in all these areas. He's got all this stuff. And how the hell am I going to shorten the gap to get there? What do I need to do to get there? Is there
a possibility of shortening the gap?
From what I've seen people do with their mindset, like they've got the vision and the goals that they've set, absolutely.
Yeah. You can short circuit it.
Oh, absolutely. If you start
by alignment,
what you focus on grows.
Yep.
That's very personal developy, but what you focus on grows. And from what I've seen from people, especially in like RMK Elite, some people start flying, and you go, how? Oh, that's why. It's not they're doing these big massive deals or trades, and because those things are coming on because they are super consistent in their own daily actions. And you start seeing it, and they start putting all these visions of where they want to go out there, and they start thinking about what they could actually do. And then you start trying to bring that into reality and just putting that out there. That starts like manifesting that shit.
Yeah, it's like Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Perspective is everything, mate. Like you just need someone sometimes just to open up your perspective a little bit. Sometimes you just need to start forest through the trees type stuff. Sometimes you just need to look up and see how many other forests there are. Because
that's really interesting, for sure. But we were speaking about it before. In most, we're men, so I'll speak as a man. Something happens for us to be. We're so reactive naturally to circumstances or situations. Inherently, we're not that proactive.
No.
To things. So to shift and turn around to have goals and processes and systems in place to achieve changes everything for a man. It
Absolutely.
really does. Like you automatically become a different person.
Yeah.
As soon as those go from your head to your hand and they're written down, it instantly you're different.
Yeah, very
it
much
does
so.
something psychologically. I know it had for me that I changed straight away.
And you found just kind of actually writing down and completing tasks in your daily habits of what you wanted to do, which is bringing you towards something that you want. And you wonder why when you start getting a few wins and you drop off on those areas, and you wonder why wins you start taking steps back.
Yep.
Because you stop doing the things that got you there. That's the thing. You stop doing the things because you go up to this new level and you get comfortable because, you've achieved a little bit, but maybe, and then you say, maybe I don't need to plan my night or plan my week the week before, like on the weekend before. Maybe I don't need to do this meditation tonight because
I'm going okay.
No, what are you talking about? I've been super calm the last 2 weeks, nothing's really fazed me. Oh, it's okay if I miss one.
And I promise you the universe will drop that brick.
Yeah.
Just to prove that you haven't been doing it.
Well, it's not a habit then, because it's okay. And Tim Ferriss talks about this, but a habit missed once is okay. A habit missed twice is the start of a new habit.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, like, it's also ego coming into play when you get a win, because it's just ego. It's just ego just showing up. It's showing up a little bit, and it's just going high. Like, it's just this protective mechanism, for example, that's showing up. It's like, hey, I'm still here. Oh, maybe you don't have to. Look at you. You're flying right now. Like, you got these wins. Maybe you don't have to do that stuff tonight. And you wonder why it takes you a couple. It's not the first day, and it's not like the next week, but cracks will start happening. And that's the biggest thing we've seen from other people, that they stop missing checking in. They stop missing their dailies, for example, and they go, oh, I've just hit a big rut. And they come back, and it's just circular. You can see that. You can see it. You can see it happening, and you can see guys go flying, and then they think they're going really well, but it's like, mate, you're just crushing it in this one area, which you might just be innately really good at, or it might just be the easiest route to get. Someone might get a really big win in business because of the way they're kind of going, but that just might be the first thing. Like, are you the father you want to be at the moment? Are you the husband, the partner, have you got the body that you want at the moment? Like no, just because you got an easy win doesn't mean you need to stop going. You've still got
totally.
Just because you got a win doesn't mean you can slack off, because you've still got all these other areas. It just might be the easiest win because it was probably the next in line. That's all it is.
Yeah. How would you check and test? Because something I think about a lot is checking and testing how far you think you've actually come.
How far do you look back on when you're? When you look back when you're on the mountain climbing up?
Yeah. How do you know? What do you do to actually check and test to see? Because that bar is always moving, and if you can keep at the same level as the bar, well, it doesn't feel like you're really growing. I think we tend to expect massive shifts in personally to really solidify that we've had super amounts of growth, instead of it being a 1% or like little chipping away at a time. But how would you know? What would happen for you to know that you are in or have had significant periods of growth?
I think setting a practice of reflection.
Yep.
And I never did any of this stuff, by the way. So this was never a thing for me for 31 years. I was super reactive. I lived life reactively. Work, sport. The only thing I'd probably plan out was my training sessions.
There you go.
It's the only thing I planned out because
it's important to you.
It's my value.
Yep.
It's something I cared about.
Yep.
And that's it. I wouldn't plan on anything else. And so I was just super reactive in work, and then things would get missed in work. I'd forget things, absolutely. So that didn't really go well sometimes. Relationships, couldn't even comment on that stuff. But because I just wasn't actively thinking about it, it wasn't a big thing for me.
A high value.
No. Like anything. And so setting a precedence of you always reflect on the last week you've had, the last 8 weeks that you've had. We do it with sprints because not only do you finish the sprint and I got a couple of wins, but then you reflect back on where did I actually miss? Where have I come from? And then you look back on the biggest thing we've done recently is look back at our 2024 wins. Yep. And man, if you'd have told me a year ago I would have the relationship that I kind of have with my dad at the moment, I couldn't pay the amount of money that I do for this stuff.
Yeah.
If you pay this money to get this, wouldn't even question that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Be in the situation where you are at the moment, I think setting a practice of reflection is a kind of a big one. As someone who's quite analytical myself, I quite go to the negative all the time. But you still get to see the wins that you kind of had.
I think it's I'd imagine it feels like that's what's been fostered in you, is that constant negativity and always focusing on the negative and not celebrating your wins, how big or small they are. Because as, you know, we've said it before, it creates, and you said it creates momentum. And it could be the smallest thing. But it's something that I have to focus on hardcore is celebrating those little wins, however big they are, because habitually I just hit
What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
and then my first port of call is the negativity. What was not done right. So that being really self-critical.
Yep, I'm very much the same.
And that's the first place, but that's how I grew up.
Yep.
It was always, you heard that you did poorly in that area, and if you did well.
Who was that from?
So you should have.
Who was that from?
The dad,
Yep.
But, you know, I've spoken about it on here before. His reasons for that was because he got disappointed in what he perceived lack of effort, because he knew that there was so much more to give, or he got the shits with the lack of. He knew that there was talent there, but you weren't living up to the talent or the expectation. So therefore it transferred to him constantly hitting the negativity button, because he deemed that would foster improvement. And it went the other way.
Where do you think he learned that from?
I don't, because his dad wasn't so present. So I don't know where that came, where I've spoken to him about it, and the conversation was it came because of his levels of disappointment in terms of not living up to your expectation, or not
Of his own.
Well, no, not fulfilling maybe his own expectations placed on us, but he didn't believe we were fully living up to our potential. So by him bringing light to the negatives he believed that was probably more of a focus to improve those little areas, because you don't have to worry about the ones you're doing well. But the shift has happened a lot in recent time, particularly in coaching, that you're more celebrating your attributes. Because if you're in a team sport, like you've said, you went and knuckled down on having a specific role to play. You couldn't go and do the things that other blokes could, but you've got a specific role that they need. So you're celebrating what you're good at and fostering that.
Billy Slater, when he spoke about he actually jumped on the podcast, on the Imperfects podcast. It's actually very good podcast from a coaching point of view as well. Obviously he's won like 2 Origins now. Before obviously this year, but an assistant coach. He speaks about an assistant coach was trying to get into a player about something negative, and I think Slater learnt this from Bellamy, must have been because it's who he's coached, but he goes, how many times have you praised that player for something that they've done really well or something they're really good at? And he goes, oh, no, I'm just like picking it out. And it's like, until you have praised that player multiple times, then you can give feedback. Don't give feedback on something before you have praised that player and then built up the relationship to be able to then provide feedback. Mm-hmm. And I very much am guilty of when I was a senior player, of nitpicking players and being kind of very quiet. If something else would happen wrong, or I would very much like, hey, you need to go and do this next time. Hey, we need to be better in this area. Da, da, da. But I never would sit there and pump someone else's tires up the whole time. It's like I should have, and looking back on myself, need to pump others up before I go and give feedback eventually. It's not the shit sandwich analogy, but you are not allowed to give feedback on someone until you have given them multiple positive comments before it about themselves. And Slater also talks about it with the Maroons, that he can't make he has players for a certain period of time. He can't make them better and pick on he can't make their weaknesses their strengths in that time, or he can't make it that. But what he can do is make a player play super well into all of the things that they are awesome at.
Yeah.
And so one of his things is he pumps players up super, super well. That's like the biggest thing about it. He can't change the nitgritty things that some of the players do. But what he can do is go and make them go out there and play the best. He's not trying to give false confidence, but then when he goes and gives feedback in that situation, he's built up the rapport. He's built up that buffer. And maybe that's something that potentially like I look back on and go, if you just are always nitpicking someone, or if you're always giving negative feedback, it's always come to, they're not going to take that feedback on very well. And that kind of potentially speaks into what. You might be doing it in the best intentions.
Yeah. Irrespective of the weight that he'd carry because of his status and the career he had, it's all irrelevant.
Yep, absolutely. Because otherwise you're just going to have that relationship with him every time he speaks to you. And that's me talking about at 33 now. And I wish I could tell 27-year-old Liam, who was starting to become a leader in some of the teams that I was in, starting to become more of a senior player, because I spent all of this time just kind of being quite negative to other people and wondered why some of those situations, like I wouldn't get the best out of some of the people, or I wasn't well liked sometimes in teams because I just wanted people to play at a better level just because I wanted the team to do well. Yeah. It was never my own thing or to nitpick other people to make myself feel better. It was like I wanted to win so badly but sometimes, and you see that maybe potentially with like Michael Jordan and Kobe and stuff like that, they held people to higher standards. But like they wouldn't have been the most positive people in the world. So I think it kind of is a balance, very much
it's a huge balancing act.
Yeah. Some people who do it, and some people just go, but like, again, I'm not Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. Like, I can't go and do that stuff.
Are you there to be, and I've had these comments from leaders, coaches, captains, whatever, and it was I don't know, it must have been in a leader's script that they get a manual on, and it said, I'm not there to be liked. I'm not here for you to like me. I'm here for us to get to an end result collectively. And if you don't want a part of that, then too bad, so sad. This is how it is. A lot of that's changed now. The world has changed a lot to being more accepting of those people in the team. Connor and I have spoken about it. It has become, we believe it's become very soft.
Sometimes, yeah, it's definitely changed.
Bowing to the wokeness, or but yeah, just kids roll like there's limited resilience now.
Where do you think that comes from?
Connor and I spoke about it on an app that we think that it's gradually become more accepted because of participation awards, and everyone gets a prize for just participating like that. That sense of working hard to achieve a goal doesn't carry the same weight anymore because everybody's getting, like, I'm pretty sure there's hardly any first, second and third places at school now.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's everyone gets the same ribbon. I might be wrong, but from my nieces and nephews who are young and Grace at school, it seems like, her little running races, she would win, but she wasn't getting a first place ribbon. All the kids were getting a ribbon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that has to change something in the players that are coming through. Like, there's no way it doesn't, because it's not building competitiveness. It's not building, like, if I get the same as what that person did and I beat them, what's the point?
But that's exactly what's happening. Like, what's the point?
What's the point? Maybe it fosters something that people haven't realised yet, because it's been to appease other people, not...
Well, it's appeasing mediocrity.
Yeah.
That's what it's doing. And it's just saying, oh, well, you don't have to try because you're going to get something anyway.
Yeah.
It's
It's definitely taken effect on things for sure.
it just, I mean, it really does. It affects society now, not just solely in sport. Like it has a massive impact on how people show up. Like, I mean, we'll go off on a whole tangent here right now, but even things like dating apps and stuff like that, it's so accessible and easy now for people just to change. The world is so fast paced now that there's no real, doesn't seem like that nitty gritty, buckle in and rip, understand what's happening for you and to you and find ways to overcome them. Like, because you can just change.
Yeah.
If things get prickly, you just fuck off.
Just move off, yeah. Actually, you notice that with, like, the new generation coming into the workforce. They will work at a job for a year, 6 months.
Can't find a good apprentice.
Bang. They don't like the boss, don't like how it is. Bang, change. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. Go to the next job.
I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to start my own business. Which I'm
good, perfect.
Unreal.
Good on you.
Yeah, exactly right.
If that's what you actually want to do, but don't just throw it off like it's just a throwaway.
When you meet a bit of resistance.
Yeah, but that's what it is. When you're meeting a little bit of resistance or conflict, just pack up and fuck off.
Because it's not really fostered on. I don't think it's fostered very much nowadays, as we literally spoke about, and it shows out everywhere. And so it's in society that we're talking about. You're just not fostering. Yeah, just doing hard things.
Well, it's what, for me, by doing hard things that are uncomfortable is what gives you that sense of fulfillment and success, doesn't it? Like that
sense of achievement of doing something.
Totally. 100%, but I don't know, has it been lost?
I got a question for you though. Doing hard things when it's something you're already good at. Just picking the next hard thing in line with what you're doing at. Is that still doing hard things, or is it kind of are you taking like a bit of an easier route then?
Well,
I'll give the analogy of I never could run a half marathon, and I ran my first half marathon. And you've done a whole running prep. All right, next I'm going to go do a full marathon, and like that's the next thing. Now I'm going to run another full marathon, and sticking into something now that you're pretty bloody proficient in. What
but
about
you can do it?
You know you can do now. Is that still doing something hard?
No.
No, exactly right.
100% it's not, because you've created that ability, so that's stuck with you. The way I would be built, and it probably wouldn't have, like, I know that I have done that, so therefore I know I could rely on going and doing it anytime with some sort of preparation. Obviously, you couldn't just go and do it.
Yeah, obviously I went to physical, but it's like, do you think that people go to those type of areas because they're that way inclined, or because they are really they're really hiding from something that might actually be really hard, that might actually be really uncomfortable, and I might not achieve? Because if you do a half marathon, I just got to keep training a little bit and maybe I can go and do the full one type situation. It's like, I know how to do that. Like, but what about going and doing something mentally tough, going and doing something going and opening up to someone, going and do something that deep down that's like, I don't want to touch that. Let's pick something from a lower shelf here.
It's a humane trait to take the path of least resistance.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Like, you will always go and grab the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
Won't you? Like,
yep.
You are always just going to do that. But for me, something I have been reactive to things because of something that's happened to then click my ass into gear. Prior to that, you would teeter on the water's edge and go, yes, I know these things need work. And you dip your toe in the water and you do a little bit of it, not fully in, but you're not out. And then it's when something happens, well, then you bomb dive in, like you're all into it.
You need the activation energy.
I just think that's how a lot
It's like
of us are built.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
You would have it because you knew that you were almost time stamped on your career. So then you're like, shit, someone's just knocked on my door. What do I do now? Which has given you the sense of having the next level of achievement in your life and whatever it might be. So could you ever say that you know somebody that is just on point all the time and always moving forward without anything being a catalyst for them to make change?
I don't think so.
I couldn't.
I don't think so. We're all human.
I couldn't.
Whatever you're going to
imagine
see on social media, whatever you might think. Remember, we only see people in little parts. You might just catch up with someone and might not look like they're doing well, or might look like they're going well on social media. That's just what you see. There's definitely areas in other people's lives that they're not doing well in, and everybody has challenges. And that's one of the biggest things is like everyone is dealing with their own shit.
Totally.
Like everyone is dealing with their own things. It's all relative. Just because you're winning at business and I'm not, I might not have a big, I might not have a big value on like business at the moment. That's why you go to these places in Nepal. They're some of the happiest people in the world.
Guarantee
they don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They don't need all this stuff. They need goat's milk and and rocks and family and hugs from their fucking mum, and they are happier than what people are in Western society
with millions of dollars.
Yep. And I guarantee because it's not built off that.
Amen.
Exactly like that.
But that's creating and understanding your highest values.
Yep.
Isn't it?
You don't need many things.
How old were you when you could pinpoint your highest personal values? Or have you?
When I actually sat down and actively looked at what my personal values were.
Mm-hmm.
31.
So 2 years ago.
Start of RMK.
Okay.
When I knew sport was probably that, but I never really had kind of been in that mindset, I don't think, to think about everything else.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I don't think I liked myself for a very long time. And I've only really started working on it and kind of starting to like the person I'm starting to become.
I'd resonate with that a lot.
I don't think I liked myself. Yeah. And that's the whole goes
facade.
Back to the mirror thing. I liked achieving things in sport and it made me feel good. But if you peel back that onion layer, oh mate, I didn't like myself. Like at all. Yep. I know the things I have like said to people and done, and I don't like that person. I think that's a big bubble that we could like go into, but like that's a big thing. I'm not really like when you look back at it and go like I didn't like the person I was. I didn't like the type of friend I was, the son, the brother I was to my sister, like the leader, like the player I like was in terms of other people and relationships with people. Like I didn't like myself like at all, and I think I've gone through a really long period of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it came with massive elements of ego and arrogance and all of the...
That is all a facade that I'm putting on to make myself feel better. That is all that is.
That's exactly what it is.
That is all that is, because you have to go and have that ego and you start like doing these things and saying and trying to pump your chest up and doing things on the field and talking shit and all this stuff to cover up just how fucking insecure you are inside.
Oh,
how much you do not really like yourself.
It's a real, it is walking over hot coals, and it is so fucking challenging. I remember sitting there with Renee multiple times, and she's such really emotionally attuned, like so good and so, well, I would say clever with it, but to her it's just normal. But to me it was so foreign. to actually sit there and have honest conversations around your authenticity and who you are and how you're showing up fucking rocked me to the core, hey, because you're being asked questions of you that you've never asked yourself.
Yep.
Nor can you answer them.
I think you know the answer and you just don't want to say it.
You reckon you're afraid of...
I reckon you don't want to...
You don't want to admit it.
You know, like if you asked me some of those, like... And that got shown to me really early in RMK when Craig spoke about values. And one of the three values that Craig has is integrity. What
were yours?
He has integrity, honor, and arete.
Yeah.
When we went through the values thing, and I really looked at it, I was not an integral person.
Sorry, just define what you believed integrity to be. Because if you ask multiple people have a different thoughts around what integrity is, I think.
I guess.
Or do you think it is such a blanket?
It is a little bit of a blanket term, but it's like, for me, I lied a lot. I said what I wanted to get certain things. I was dishonest. I did all these things.
They're people-pleasing traits, aren't they?
Yeah, but to get what I wanted, to kind of, I did all that. And so, like, that's not with integrity.
No.
And integrity is someone who, to me, like, integrity means being completely honest.
And strong on your word.
And strong on your word. Yeah. And that you do what you say you're going to do, and you can stay strong. You can stand strong in that stance. Yep. Craig speaks about it all the time, but
even when no one's watching.
Even when no one's watching, or the world, like other people, other friends group and whatever is not watching. It's what you do alone, or what you do. Like, not acting with integrity, or not doing like that is like that rocked me for a really long time because I could not answer that question because I have done things and said things that are not in line with integrity and not in line with the person that I want to be. And it can be all like mush words, but I'm just saying like where I'm at the moment is like you need to go and define some of these words for yourself and then what that means to you and then what actionable steps that you take every single day if you want to be classed as an integral person.
Yep.
You tell the truth. Like, that's the same thing as honest. But
even if it's hard.
Even if it's hard. Yep. I don't go and lie to someone to get what I want. I don't lie to someone just to make myself feel better or so that I get what I want, for example. Or that's not acting with integrity, not doing the right thing. Like, you just do it because it might be easier. Do it because no one else will know. It's like, I throw the Coke can in the bin and it misses and I just keep walking. Like, no one will know, but I guarantee you if you're in the car and you throw it out the window and the kids will know. Like, that's like, but that's just a blanket like example. But I feel not many, I didn't do it, understand what these values that you kind of want to live by and what you do every single day to you, that means that you are acting in alignment with that. And then when someone tries to question your integrity or the person that you might have been previously, you would go, as we said back before, I have evidence in myself that I know I have done, not in front of this person who might know an old version of me from 5, 6, 7 years ago, or whenever it is. But I know I have spent the last however long acting with integrity. Acting with integrity, and now like I am an integral person, and I know myself. So if someone questions you on it, they might just be questioning the version of you that they know. I don't see the stuff that you do, and that's where it can kind of come back to you. You start doing that stuff for other values of yourself, and it doesn't matter what someone else says eventually. Like, it's like because they're just going from the version of you that they've seen and they've previously gone. You know, and when you have the evidence to back up what you say, that you think that you are integral, then that's when like you can say that I'm an integral person. Yep. But then you have this imposter syndrome in yourself that you'll start getting when you know you haven't been acting with integrity, but then try and say that you'll say and do the same things that you I very much have tried to be like that when I post on Instagram and stuff like that. I very much have tried to be open, and Craig's pushed me to be a lot open, that like I'm trying to say these things, but then also saying like what I've done and what I'm at the moment, because the last thing you want is someone to be inauthentic.
Yeah.
That's one of the values that I'm trying to really, really be at the moment. And that's one of the values that I have put into me moving forward, is be authentic, and what authentic means to me. And me posting on social media, I make sure that I'm trying to be, and saying, if that means that I say my faults and get laughed at by other people or whatever it is, then so fucking be it. At least I know that I'm saying what I think at the time and where I am at, and never trying to put it, because then you won't have imposter syndrome if you say what you are doing at the moment and where you've pulled up stuff. Going in, you find social media nowadays, as people post all the highlights of their life. It's all you see. There's not too many times people post the real authentic selves, because people don't like that. Other people don't like seeing that, and it's not like the right thing to do.
No, but it'd carry so much more weight if they did.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it?
And that's why I've tried to say and do the things that I do on like social media and stuff like this, because it's like, I want to be known as an authentic person, and I'm saying the things that I have done, and not liking myself and all the things that I've like tried to cover up and self-sabotage. And I'm saying all that stuff because like I know that someone else is going to see that and resonate with that, because like it has to, like other people do those things. It's just, and so moving forward, you need to know what those future values are that version of you keeps. And then what do you do every day to get to there? That's the I never thought about that stuff until I started working in RMK last year. And that's what that's one of the things I want to do moving forward, is have people find out what their true values are that they might have at the moment. Because you get someone who loves their family. Absolutely. That is what makes you a good dad in that situation. Cool. That is you living as a family man. Unreal. Let's find out other things about you that you want to live by, and what do you what do you want to keep doing, because then that's like your true values.
We asked Jammer before we wrap up, the question I asked him was, what do you want your legacy to be? Who do you want to be, and what do you want to be known for?
I love this question, because to be honest, before I started doing all the work in RMK and started looking at this stuff, I had absolutely no idea. I would have maybe gave you a monetary value.
Right.
I would have given you, I want to have this for my family or whatever it is. Or legacy to me at the moment means leaving behind something that can't be bought or given down in a monetary value. Living down, and what I think about at the moment, it's the values that you have and you keep and you pass on to your family, that you as a person and what we as a family do. And I've had a bit of a think about this, and I revisited it quite recently, to be honest, that I would like obviously my son to know what Bauer means to me. And then I've kind of made BAUER mean different values. And I want that to be known to him and everybody, and then they teach that stuff to their kids.
Yeah.
That is legacy. That to me is you're changing and doing things that supersede generations. Wealth doesn't do that. Like wealth, sure, like you can create wealth and it sets everybody up. That's unreal. But legacy to me is creating, like, I'm not gonna say it sounds like a bit of a buzzword, but like creating like change in generations. Like you're going to be gone. 2-3 generations time, you are not going to be remembered. But the values of what that last name will mean is what something I want to have get passed on. And it's something we've learnt from RMK, and it's very, very, I think, powerful. And I think not many people think about that stuff.
It's very purposeful.
Absolutely. And I think it's very easy to just go off your last name and you pick values that kind of associate with those words. Obviously, it's hard when you've got a very long last name, but I've got 5 and it kind of works with me.
Yeah. I think Gavin Topp, the Aussie boxer, That's something he pushes a lot with his stuff, is that your surname is what creates your legacy and what it means.
Yep, and you create off the back of that.
Yep.
Because then it's like, okay, I'm a Bauer, and this is what being a Bauer means. I want my son and daughter to know what that means.
Yeah, exactly right. And what it stands for. Anyway,
Awesome.
mate, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Enjoyed the chat. It's been terrific.
Thanks, mate. Love it too. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you again. Hopefully, Connor is back from his little holiday. Thanks, guys.